What's going on, guys? Scar coming at you with another Magic the Gathering video. Today's going to be diving into some cards I'm thinking about crafting that are on the more budget side. These are cards that are commons and uncommons. These are cards that I feel like are going to be one of those ones that you're going to see pop up, fill slots into decks that aren't rares and mythics. And I think these are definitely be cards that you can definitely play in draft. They're definitely be cards that you could definitely craft if you're on a budget and don't have a lot of rare mythic wild cards, as each of these cards overall have a pretty interesting power, I think, to them that will definitely benefit from the current way Standard is. And I think as Standard kind of develops after Kaldheim releases, these will definitely be cards that will definitely fill slots indexed as the meta shapes up after all of this. With that being said, guys, if you like the video, hit that like button. It definitely lets me know that you guys like these kind of videos. If you're new here and want to know I post new videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into the cards and kind of break down each one. So first and foremost, we have rune cards, as I kind of have these all in a cluster, and these are kind of more so honorable like mentions, as I'm not sure if runes are going to be a thing that are going to be happening in Standard. There is a 3-mana dwarf that's a 2/3 that, you know, allows you to search your library or graveyard for a rune card and makes all runes cost 1 colorless. I don't know if that's going to be a card that's definitely going to see play, but the idea of runes definitely unlimited is going to be a thing just because the value you get for 2 mana, the fact that it is a 2-mana enchant permanent that you can enchant kind of any permanent. You cast a 2 mana, you get to draw a card. If you enchant a creature, you get some ability. There's various things like fly-in, lifelink, death touch, +1/+1 and trample, which I feel like is super good. And then I think the red one is +1/+0 and haste. So each of them have their own benefit. On top of it, if you enchant an equipment card with this card, then that equipment gains that ability, so it just makes the equipment that much better. So if the creature dies, then you have the equipment to have this ability going forward. Definitely a card I will see getting a lot of value in draft, just because it is a card that draws you a card for 2 mana that replaces itself in your hand, which drawing cards in draft and getting a little bit deeper in your deck is always good, looking for an answer possibly. The idea that it gives you some other benefit ability, flying is very good and limited. See, you know, given a particular creature flying in even Standard could be very good. And just overall, I think there's a good value for the 2 mana cost, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. We could probably see, like, I think at least the green and white one possibly, if there's some sort of aura enchantment deck that pops up. I mean, Setessan Champion's a thing. Those are definitely 2 good cards that could definitely fit in that style of deck. You know, we'll see how it goes as the meta develops, but these are definitely for an uncommon. I think these cards do hold a lot of value, and like I said, if you do plan on playing draft, these are definitely cards that you want to draft in your deck because they help your aggro effect kind of become better. Next cards up on this list are the sagas. Yet again, just like the runes, there's a lot more than there are the runes. There's also rare ones, but these are all the uncommons, and I think sagas have become a pretty good thing. A lot of the uncommons sagas are actually very good. They're definitely very good and limited just because you get the ability to get in 3 progressive things play for essentially the initial cost of the various mana costs, which are 2, 3, 4. I think is the most expensive for the uncommons, and they each have an array of abilities. The first one, for example, the green-red one, which could be interesting in like kind of that Gruul aggro style deck or maybe a mid-range deck. The initial ability is to make 2 creatures fight. When you control, one you don't control. You get to add a red mana, you get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, and on top of it, you get to gain life equal to the greatest power of creatures you control, which could be very good, I think. On top of it, there's a 4-mana green-black one that could definitely be good for Golgari or even like, you know, some sort of other style deck that kind of control-y based, in the sense that it gets to destroy target non-land permanent for 4 mana, which is pretty good. So it's any permanent on the battlefield, non-land, so including planeswalkers, which is always a benefit. You get to search your library for a forest card on the battlefield, tap, which is very good. So it has a built-in ramp spell, so definitely good for that green style deck, and especially control where you need additional mana. And on top of it, you get to give all your creatures death touch. So if you're on that more maybe Golgari mid-range, definitely good. Yet again, another good card for draft because you're playing a little bit more aggressively. There are others I can go off of, some maybe not as good, some okay. Depending on what style of deck you are, I would say that any of these sagas, depending on your color scheme, definitely could fit somewhere. Yet again, if you, like I said, if you are playing draft, these are definitely cards you also want to add to your draft deck just because of their added benefit. You know, having multiple chapters that do multiple things will help you out in the long run. Now, moving on to the next one. This one, yet again, I feel like it's definitely going to be very good in draft. I'm not sure 100% where it falls in Standard, but I do see a possibility that could see play, especially on the more aggressive style aggro decks, and that is Clarion Spirit. It's a 2 mana white spell that is a 2/2 for 2 mana, which is, like I said, it's a pretty good value right there. On top of it, whenever you play your second spell a turn, you get to create a 1/1 white spirit token. So essentially, you are building a bigger board. So if you're playing something like Mono White Weenie or Boros Aggro, or a deck where you're just going to be playing multiple spells on a turn, I think this is definitely going to be a card that's going to help you in the long run become much wider than your opponent, especially very early. I think could be very effective in like an aggro deck. I don't know how long it sustains, just because, yet again, if you start pumping out multiple spells a turn, if you're not replenishing the hand, you may use all your cards in your hand. So it's one of those things we'll kind of wait and see, but I do see a possibility that it could see play in standard. Definitely a play in draft just on that basis of its ability is very strong, just because, you know, just getting additional creatures and additional threats on the board, putting more pressure on your opponent is going to be very good. To follow that up, we're actually going with another white creature spell. It's a 1 mana 2/1 called Usher of the Fallen. The reason why I think this is going to be good because it's a 2/1 for 1, which is already very good. The ability to boast for 2 mana is going to be very good, because the ability of boasting allows us to, you know, make a 1/1 warrior creature token whenever this creature has attack. So essentially, after we declare attacks, we can pay that 2 mana whatever. So, you know, essentially, if it does get blocked and then dies, we can always, you know, at least get a 1/1 out of it. But in the benefit, yet again, another creature that makes your board wider. Definitely good play for limited, just because of the ability to make our board wider is always good. I can see this maybe falling somewhere in a Boros Warriors deck, you know, getting that +1/+1 ability, and then the ability to create more warrior tokens every time this creature attacks is going to, you know, could definitely overwhelm your opponent. Yet again, I could see this card being a must craft in a way. Up to you if you are in that style of deck. Maybe it can also fit into the mono white, like, lifelink style deck. It doesn't have lifelink, but just the ability to create additional tokens for only 2 mana, I think, is a good way, just with the only drawback of having to attack. Yet again, we're going on to the white train with another card called Chaos Onslaught. The reason why I think this one's good, sure, the initial cost isn't great because it's a 3 mana spell that gives only a creature +1/+1 and double strike, but I do think the reason why this is good is because you can set up for the long game, essentially paying its 2 mana foretell cost, and then paying the 1 white mana to then flip it whenever you need to give the +1/+1 and double strike to a particular creature. I could see this definitely being played in a Boros style Warriors deck, because you have another equipment that's not an Ember Cleave or something like that. Play this on a creature that may not get blocked, that has an equipment on that's already pretty decent size. Next thing you know, you're doing double the damage. And on top of it, if you have lifelink in any sort of way, you're going to gain double the life. But yet again, I think the ability that you're foretelling it possibly for only 1 white mana, I think makes this very good. And the only drawback, like I said, is to pay the 2 colorless up front at some point earlier in the game. Now we're going to move into green, and right now this is the only one that really stuck out to me in the common uncommon range, and that is Blizzard Brawl. I think with the influx of snow permanents that are going to be coming into the set, with just not the lands but also creatures and artifacts and stuff like that, I think snow is going to be something that we're definitely going to see in a lot of decks. And the ability to have a fight spell for 1 mana is going to be very good. And it is the one benefit of this fight spell for 1 mana is that if we control 3 or more snow permanents, we get to give that creature we're choosing to fight another creature +1/+0 and indestructible. So essentially, this creature now can fight into anything for only 1 mana. I think is going to be overall very good, and you're going to probably see this in a lot of green decks or decks that play green, especially with snow permanents. Play this spell, just because I don't see really too much of a drawback, regardless of if you don't have snow permanents. A 1 mana fight spell is actually fairly good. Sure, it's not instant speed, but I think this ability to fight for 1 is gonna be great. Now moving into red, yes, I know green was kind of on the shorter list, but I do think there's other cards in green that definitely can pop up. Beam Bolt, though, is going to be a good card, I think, overall, just because it's a 3 mana instant speed that deals 4 damage, which is going to be very good to target creature or planeswalker. But the idea, yet again, like the couple cards that have Foretell on them, I think Foretell is going to be one of those abilities that is fairly good, and I think it's a little bit underrated if you haven't heard the hype. But the idea to set this up in the later game for 2 mana is a 1 red mana 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker is going to be very big. I mean, if you think about it, how many things can, if you do 4 damage to stay on the battlefield? Sure, there's probably a lot of things in green, but the idea that a lot of the other aggro aggressive decks, this is definitely going to hit a lot of things, and the idea that you're only going to pay 1 mana for it, I think is the reason why this card is going to be one of those cards you're going to see played a lot in decks that play red or splash red or something like that, just because of this Foretell ability. Following that up, Burn Spell, we're going to follow it up with a Frostbite, yet again another snow permanent or snowy instance spell, and this one is a 2 damage kind of like shock ability to target creature or planeswalker. But the idea here, yet again, if you control 3 or more snow permanents, you get to do 3 damage to target to instead, which is going to be very good. And for yet again 1 mana that you don't have to set up, and you can have a 1 mana 3 like lightning bolt effect to target creature or planeswalker is very good. Like I said, the only drawback have to have snow permanents, but at the end of the day, worst case scenario, you have no snow permanents. 2 mana burn spell, 2 mana shock, or 1 mana shock, very good. Definitely a card that is definitely going to see play in a lot of decks that probably play snow permanents or even play red in any level. All right, now moving into blue. This is where it gets very interesting. I don't know 100%, but something about this card, I don't know, to me, for the value for 1 mana, enchant target creature, tap target creature, it deals damage to you equal to its power, and then that enchanted creature doesn't untap during its opponent's untap step, I think is a very good for the drawback. Yet again, this is something you can play very early with the drawback of, would you rather have a creature attacking multiple turns in a row, or would you rather take something that's very powerful, have it hit you once for whatever damage its power is, and it doesn't untap going forward unless they remove this enchantment. I think this is a good payoff for a common card. I can see this in maybe someone who's playing a little bit more on the budget side, or I can see this being in some control decks because it can slow down an opponent's early game. And with it only costing you 1 mana and only getting hit once by that creature, possibly, I think this is going to be one of those cards for what it is. I think is going to be played. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think, but I really like this card. Yet again, also in draft, it's a very good card for 1 mana, I think. Next card up, you got to follow it up. This is the counter spell, I think, of the deck that are of the set that I think is very interesting. Yet again, it's another foretell card that you flip it down for 2 colorless, and then later down the road, whenever you decide to counter target spell, you only pay 2 mana instead of 3 mana, which opens up a lot of your mana to help you play other things, or allows you to kind of maybe think to your opponent that you just have like something like a negate or an essence scatter instead. This kind of replaces that essentially, but yet again, saw it coming. This is going to be a card that you're going to see a lot of, I think. There's really not too much in a way of drawbacks because, yet again, usually early in control for the most part, or even decks that play blue, to set this up later when you definitely need it to get rid of something that's very big, or if your opponent decides to tap all out for something, very large. This is definitely one of those cards that is going to annoy a lot of opponents. They're going to see it coming, and the thing is, they're either going to have to play around it, or they're going to have to play right into it. So I would definitely see this is one of those cards to definitely craft and or draft. Now onto another blue spell, yet again. This one is Behold the Multiverse. This is yet again another very interesting card. It's a 4 mana, instant speed, scry 2, then draw 2. But yet again, the foretell ability is what it's all about. You set it up for the later game when your hand's getting a little thinner to tap 2 mana, 1 blue, 1 colorless, and get to essentially scry 2 and draw 2. It's a lot of value. Yet again, it takes a little bit of a setup, but I think the value's there. I think to only pay 2 mana and then later down the road when you need the cards, you can pay 2 mana and then draw 2 and actually set up to the ones that you may want, definitely helps you out a lot. And it being an instant speed, I think definitely helps you out in that sense. You can even set up your next draw step, or just, it's a good card to dig a little bit deeper for 2 mana in the later game, even if it costs you up front. I think is a good payoff. And now moving on to the last card. This is the only black card that I actually put on the list, just like green. Black didn't get as much love in this video, but yet again, I do think there's other cards. I want to keep this list kind of minimum for the most part. But this is called Poison the Cup. It is a 3 mana destroy target creature spell. But yet again, like all the foretell cards, it's a good setup for a removal spell when you do need it. 2 colorless for 1 black and 1 colorless. You can actually then pay for its foretell cost, which essentially it does, destroy target creature. But then if you foretold it, it now lets you scry. So essentially, after you've destroyed a creature, you can always look for that next removal spell, or maybe that next key card to maybe take advantage of this removal spell. So yet again, I think this is one of those cards you'll see kind of replace maybe some of those Eliminates or Heartless Acts in a way. Sure, it does take a little bit of a setup. It is going to cost you 4 mana in total, but I think the payoff is, yet again, 2 mana, destroy any creature whenever you do need it, is going to be the reason why this card is going to definitely be played. With that being said, guys, this is kind of like my list of things that I think you should either draft or craft. These are definitely some big hitters. Definitely, I think all these will definitely do very well in draft, and I think a lot of these cards you will see be played in standard or in decks in general. If you like the video, hit that like button. It definitely helps me out a lot. If you're new here, want to know I post new videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video. Hey guys, I want to just really quickly, if you made it to this part of the video and you see this, I just want to apologize for the audio quality. For some reason, my OBS decided to switch from my microphone to my webcam, and I didn't realize until after I shot this video, which I already shot for a second time because the first time I didn't pick up any of my audio, so this is actually the second re-edition. So I just want to say I'm sorry, but I think I have it fixed. Next video will be better. Okay.